In early 2022, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi is due to visit Russia. During the visit, a wide range of trade and economic, political and military technical issues. This was announced by the Chief of the General Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces, Mohammad Bagheri, who visited Moscow in October and talked with Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and his Russian counterpart Valery Gerasimov. Tehran wants to conclude a new agreement with Moscow on military and military technical cooperation, since all restrictions on this matter from the UN have been lifted. Moreover, a meeting of the Joint Russian-Iranian Commission on Military Technical Cooperation should take place in the near future. Bagheri did not give any other details. Therefore, what kind of Russian weapons systems the Iranians want to acquire is still unknown. However, a number of Western media outlets are actively quoting Iranian journalist Babak Tagwai, who has been permanently residing in the West since 2013 after being accused of espionage in his homeland. The expert said, referring to his sources, that in January 2022, Iran should sign with Russia a long-term agreement on cooperation in the field of security and defense for $10 billion. Which will include the purchase of Su-35 fighters, S-400 air defense systems, a spacecraft, satellite, military use and other issues. Moreover, this agreement will be partially or fully paid for by Iranian oil. Tagwai clarified that we can talk about the purchase of 24 units of these fighters, and about 16 of them have already been produced and are located at the site of the Gagarin aviation plant in Komsomolsk-on-Amur. He explained that these are fighters that Egypt ordered in 2018. But Washington is preventing the completion of the deal by threatening to impose sanctions on Cairo, which would harm the existing arsenal of the Egyptian armed forces, more than 200 F-16 fighters, dozens of A-64 Apache helicopters, and over 1,000 tanks M1A1 Abrams. Therefore, the Egyptians are in no hurry to receive combat aircraft from the Russians. In turn, the Russians tried to sell these Su-35 SEs to Indonesia, but the United States was in advance too. Cairo immediately paid Moscow $3 billion for the planes. The aircraft has already been built or is on the assembly line, so there can be no talk of terminating the contract in principle. In this regard, the Egyptians allegedly asked the Russians to transfer these fighters to Iran, which will pay for them with barrels of crude oil. This is a normal barter deal with an absolutely working scheme that will satisfy everyone except the US. Iran has already selected 30 pilots to be sent to study in Russia, and if the above agreement is signed, as planned, training will begin in January, and by mid-2022, all 24 Su-35 SEs will be transferred to the Iranians. That is why the authors of the American page 1945.com and the Argentine portal for defense and security aviationline.com believe that Iran is the best destination for Russia to get rid of the already produced fighters. Reminds you that the UN lifted the arms embargo on Iran, despite repeated protests from Washington. It is the arms embargo over the years that have caused Iran to lag in the development of weapons technology. And although Tehran has invested and produced some of its products in recent years, such as drones and various surface-to-air missiles, Iran needs foreign know-how. The possible purchase of the Russian S-400 air defense system would not surprise the world. The same goes for a communication satellite. Only a few months ago Iran launched its first satellite into space, but it is more of a big camera, as some Western media have described it. In this area, Tehran will want to receive assistance from Moscow in its space future. Iran will spend on its Revolutionary Guard next year more than double the amount allocated in 2021, according to a budget bill submitted by President Ibrahim Raisi to Parliament on December 12. According to the legislation for fiscal 2022, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps will receive 930 trillion rials, US $22 billion. Last year, the force was given a budget of 403 trillion rials. The country's conventional military, which last year received 212.79 trillion rials, is to get about 339.68 trillion rials, US $7.99 billion, for 2022. The exchange rate between the US dollar and the Iranian rial barely fluctuated from around April 2018 to December 2021. Michael Tanchum, a senior associate fellow at the Austrian Institute for European and Security Policy and a non-resident scholar at the Middle East Institute, told Defense News that Tehran's minimum strategic goal beyond political survival is to ensure the state of the region's security architecture accommodates its national interests. The IRGC, through its use of proxy militias, drones, unconventional naval warfare and missiles, cost-effectively provides Tehran the ability to inflict costs on its neighbors to ensure this deterrent capability, as seen from the attacks on Saudi Arabia's Abqaiq oil processing facility, the UAE's Fujairah oil port, among others, Tanchum said. The Guard's blend of unconventional tactics and hybrid warfare has expanding Iran's sphere of influence to the shores of the Mediterranean and the Red Seas, he added. From Iraq to Yemen, the tactical combination has made Saudi Arabia vulnerable on both its northern and southern land borders. With the increased budget, further advances in the IRGC Aerospace Division's capability to use ballistic missiles and next-generation UAVs could shift the strategic equation in Iran's favor without countervailing action on the part of Saudi Arabia and the UAE, he said. The president's bill also allocated 955 trillion rials, US $22 billion, for the defense ministry, 46 trillion rials to the Joint Military Forces Command, which essentially reviews military strategies and responsibilities, and 7.7 trillion rials to the Khatam al-Anbiya Air Defense Base. The increased budget aims to replenish expertise and material killed and depleted by proxy wars in order for the IRGC to keep their edge for any external attack or internal disruption brought by failed nuclear talks, as well as lost resources and possible upcoming brinkmanship escapades in regional operations theaters, according to Yusuf Mubarak, a Bahrain-based military researcher. The Guard, which makes up about 10% of Iran's overall armed forces, is independent of Iran's regular army and is tasked with safeguarding the Islamic Republic, which was formed after the 1979 revolution. In that context, Mubarak said, the Guard is considered Iran's core military force when it comes to protecting the government. And if internal unrest should unfold, he told Defense News, Iran's conventional military is not expected to be as heavy-handed. The government also doesn't rely on those conventional services to spearhead external offensive missions, he added. The Guard's relatively advanced homegrown ballistic research and development capabilities are derived from Chinese and Russian technology, he said. This means that should advancing the IRGC's capabilities and Iran's regional agenda better serve Sino-Russian strategies against the US and the West, the Arabian Gulf states most exposed to Iranian proxies might witness a spike in the number and complexity of the attacks through enhanced missiles and drones using Eastern tech.